Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mondays with Micah. I hope that you can notice I have this sweatshirt on that says love on it. And that is because we have a couple here. Meet Ruth and Kevin. Some of you may recognize Kevin because he is our local Santa, and Santa has shown up in some very special days and very special times. So if he gets laughing and that laugh sounds really familiar, it's because Santa's here. And he's going to bring his cheer even if he's not in full uniform. But, I don't know what Santa does in springtime. I guess he's still busy. But he's not in full service, right? Right at this time. Anyway, Kevin, I want to give a little bit of a backstory. So Kevin lost his wife. What month?
April.
Okay, April of 2017. Yes. We like all the emotions here. We do. And we accept those because that means there's love and there's feeling. And in June of 2017, I lost my husband. So Kevin and I, even though he knew there was a connection in a way, if you want to say, or a commonality, let's use that.
Yes.
Before I knew about his story and the connection that he had with Ben, and really kind of a turning point. We have talked about that on previous episodes, but I just want you to know that on our website, under the grief education tab, I have an article that Kevin wrote because he served in our armed forces for 32 years.
30.
30 years. And you had a high title. What was that?
Master Chief Petty Officer.
Master Chief Petty Officer. Okay. So he was the boss. All right. That's what I say. And he knew how to get things done. Right. And so he wrote an article to talk about some of the things that he experienced as a widower in the military and how to handle some of that. So if any of you want to know some ins and outs behind the legalities of that, please go on over to our website and check that out. It has a patriotic little design on it, so it'll be clear, but Kevin Myers was the one who wrote that. So I have already kind of been asking of him to do things. And he is one of our original members, if you want to call it, here at the Widow Walk, where he started coming to the meetings very early on. We had candid conversations when I was in the
process of
development. Yes, the research and development. Research because we were living it out. The development of how can we take this into make this a group. How do we take this, because we didn't have it for ourselves. There was no place to go. And you tried a few different things, I think.
I tried several different things.
And it didn't fit right.
No, nothing really fit right. And there was nothing really available at that time for widows and widowers.
Right. And we have heard, at least I have, that a bunch of different widows and widowers have done a program called Grief Share, which is a 12-week course. But again, it's a 12-week course. Right. You can take it multiple times. It is not just about losing a spouse. It's about losing any parent, child, spouse topics. And I've heard that a lot of people who started it had to stop because it got really heavy and maybe went back at a later time when they felt a little more emotionally stable. So that is not really what we're here at the Widow Walk to do. We are here to really gather together, create space, a safe space, let me say that, for you to process, for us to ask questions like, how was Christmas? And most of them said, not great. Okay. A lot of our friends and family is not asking us that.
No, they're not. They avoid it.
Yes, they avoid it. And just so y'all get maybe a laugh out of this, but recently we had our Spring Fest, and I've got to get a better starting question. But we're standing at the booth. There's a new widow helping me, And I'm just like, they're looking, you can see they're walking by, like trying to read what are we? They're kind of like, I don't know if I should come over there or not. And I just kind of real chipper, like, hey, do you know any widows or widowers? And they're like, no, no, we don't know any. I mean, that was very like, like the plague, And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, wow, is this what people really feel like about
It
widows?
is.
And I feel like it didn't bother me, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it. I'm gonna ask her. So I'm just the way they responded to me asking that question wasn't positive. Let me say it like that.
No.
It was kind of like ick, and they're like, "No, I can't think of anyone." I'm like, "Case in point, the widow is not thought about."
That's
So
it.
what a shock. No,
And yet they all, almost all of them know somebody
absolutely.
that is.
And I'm like, well, that's kind of good that you don't, I guess. But so I'm still learning how to ask more candid questions that doesn't offend or bring offense or an ick to like, no, I don't know anyone. So why am I saying any of this, y'all? Kevin and I have almost been 9 years this month.
This,
Oh
yes,
my God.
this month.
The Lord does this, y'all. So many times I have these videos and it's been 1 year. It's been right around stuff. And what day was it?
25th.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So see, we are right in the feels of it. Okay. Even 9 years later, Kevin, can you say that when you get close to those dates, you're a little more emotionally raw?
Yes, absolutely. I
Still.
don't think how anybody could not be.
And it's an interesting feeling, y'all. What I mean by that is I've talked to other widows and they've said, I feel more down. I don't feel like myself. Something kind of I'm just off. Those are kind of the words. And then you think, well, was it something I ate? Maybe I didn't sleep right. And then, bing! Oh my gosh, the dates. This is muscle memory, y'all. I say this a lot. There's the issues are in our tissues, okay? The fascia of our body is very involved. Is a It's water. I mean, this I can't even get all into it, y'all, but I could geek out a little bit about how the fascia is holding memories. And we have to keep our bodies in movement and circulation to help move through the trauma that our body held onto. And Kevin has really seen me have to walk through trauma in real time more closely than I think some others actually have, because he's been inside the Rock Church, witnessed me out in tears from the pulpit, seen me on the side in frustration, grief, all the feelings, add every word into it: aggravation, disappointment, sadness, gladness, thankfulness, gratitude. I mean, it's just all over the place, y'all. So, what does it make us feel like? A little bit crazy.
More than a little bit, I'd say.
We're undiagnosed crazy here on the Widow Walk.
Yes.
Please don't share that with anyone. And yet they keep coming to sit at the couch. So I feel like I'm meeting all the right people because we all have a little bit of crazy inside of us, right? That's called the fun. That's the fun inside of us. So Kevin started coming by himself 2 years ago. And then about a year ago, another lady showed up on the scene. And we're going to post a couple of pictures that we have, at least one, if not two, because we got a Christmas one that was so good, and the Walk of Love this past year that was so good of them. And I told Kevin, I need y'all to come on the show. And initially he's like, okay, I can do it. I'm like, no, I don't want just you. I need both of you. Okay. He's like, well, you didn't say that. I'm like, I thought that was pretty clear. Why do I want just your opinion about this relationship? I need you both. So they are here on a Sunday. It's a little bit chilly here, so we have our blankets. She has her tea, and I'm trying to make it as comfortable as I can to share their hearts. But Ruth, what can you say just to to meet Kevin and then be brought into the Widow Walk experience? I haven't had someone to really ask this question to. So, can you just kind of share that?
Like how we met, or
How we met, but
Mhm.
also like stepping into this group
Mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
he kind of introduced you fairly early on.
He did.
And
Yes.
we're becoming a family.
Mhm.
This is outside of a
Mhm.
church environment, even
Mhm.
though I feel like it's very spirit led
Yeah.
experience.
is.
Mhm.
So I think that's a unique storyline to say
Mhm.
that, like, hey, I'm part of this widowers group,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of interested in you. Will you
Mhm.
come to our meetings and some of our celebratory times? And
Mhm.
like, what can you say about, let's say, an outsider coming
Mhm.
in? Did it even
Mhm.
feel like that? How can you
Mhm.
kind of share with the
Mhm.
listeners, like, you're not a widow?
No, I am not a widow. No.
Okay. So first I want to just hear about your first impressions coming into our gatherings,
Mhm.
the walk of love, if you want to give
Mhm.
some thoughts on that, and then
Mhm.
we'll go into your personal story.
Oh, sure. When Kevin asked me to come with him, he's being Santa, and
Right.
I thought, okay, I'd like to meet these people
Yeah.
and hear their stories, because I am not familiar with, people who are widows or widowers. I mean, I knew a lot growing up in the church,
Okay.
in my father's church, but they always seemed like they had it together,
Oh, okay.
but you don't know what happens behind closed doors in their homes. But I just thought being a widow or widower was a part of life,
Okay.
and it was not anything different than being single, divorced, or anything like that growing up. There was no distinction
Okay.
in my family, or
Yep.
other groups that I were a part of growing up.
They just kept keeping on,
Yeah,
basically, is what you saw.
basically, yeah. What I saw was that, and coming to the Christmas lunch that we had, I met some incredible people.
Awesome.
They're resilient. I noticed
Yes.
it right from the beginning, and there is incredible. To me, there was incredible joy.
Thank you.
In yes, I know it's hard
Yes.
to not have your spouse with you,
Especially around the holidays.
especially around the holidays, because I knew a lot of the women in my father's church who missed their husbands terribly during Christmas, because that was like their favorite holiday.
Right. Right.
So it I thought when I came there, I felt a little out of place initially, but the people there, they welcomed me.
Awesome.
And we really had great conversations.
Awesome.
And there's just so much, I guess, history and optimism and
that.
stuff and things like that
Yes.
that I've heard, and so many accomplished people.
Yes.
That I was just so impressed by
Blown
all of
away.
them. Oh yeah,
Yes.
oh yeah, and and what you do to help these people come together and become a community. I thought, why isn't this happening everywhere in other places? Yeah.
Oh, it will. Okay, it's
It's
coming.
getting there.
We have to grow it.
Yes.
And so I love that. So they're like, why isn't this happening? And I have to believe it is in some form or fashion. But when you think that, it's because you don't know of one. And so either there's not enough of them, or you weren't somewhere where there was, which I think is actually very common.
But remember that there wasn't one here either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why we started it. Okay. All these words, I didn't pay these people to say this, so I'm hearing it for the first time, and it's better than I could have said for them to say. So this is not a public service announcement. I said something recently, said my PSA, and I got a text message. What is PSA? I'm like, that's a public service announcement. Okay, so this is going to be we're in the I'm digressing here a moment, but for the younger generation, now, if you're on social media, if we go live with something like this is considered a hard launch. This is terminology that means that you're willing to show publicly something's going on here. So I'm not saying this is your hard launch, but maybe it is. Okay, so all right, that's my tangent for y'all. If you didn't know that term, if you see people on Facebook who are like, "Oh, it's a hard launch," that means that they didn't put your like silhouette. This is your whole face on here. Okay, so then hopefully when he told you about our walk of love, you were even more excited because he told you this is an even bigger event. And and the food and everything, we level it up.
Oh yes.
And so can you share with us, because this was your first time getting to experience it, and the beautiful thing is they sat in the back, not by choice exactly, but there were some 2-seater tables. And that wasn't intentional, but we were using every chair we could because we wanted to fit as many people in there as we could. And what can you say about that experience?
Oh wow, that experience was amazing. It was very positive, uplifting. I felt, the spirit in the room.
Thank you.
And I thought this is really a wonderful way to not only showcase, what you do, but how you help others through their different processes, because grief has so many different levels and nuances that you really it's never the same
for each person.
Right. You just can't do it, and there's no prescription for it. That's
you heard that. That's a word right there. There's no prescription. Okay, there's a lot of prescriptions out there. Okay, there is a lot, but we know the great physician. And I hope when you say you felt the spirit in the room, that I heard this term, and it may have been in a meeting years ago, that the Holy Spirit is kind of the anesthesia. And that when we allow ourselves to go into the surgery room, usually kicking and screaming in our mind, but we allow the Holy Spirit to be the great physician. He mends our hearts. And I hope that maybe that's not a term you use, but mending is a term that I use, because there's a stitching together, there's a weaving in and out. And I said, we're going to keep working at this until the net works. We're building a network, and there's a lot of knots, and there's a lot of intersections in a net. And we're going to continue to cast this net and weave another, and not another knot with another person. Each person is a part of the net. And then we're going to grow this net until it's so strong that all these fish are going to start coming in. And those dinners feel like that time.
Oh, definitely.
And there was something that we're all around, but not exactly hitting the nail on the head, in that when we talked about starting all of this, and you guys took it on and just ran with it, and came so far in this amount of time, you and Judy. But one of the things that we all talked about at the beginning was that we wanted this to be a group that helped each other and supported each other. And you kind of hinted at it earlier when you said that so many of the widows and widowers have a really hard time during the holidays. It's kind of a, where everybody else is becoming joyous for the holidays. It's a time that some of us are really going into a grieving mode, and it's not as joyous at that time of year. For us to have that type of an event at that time of year, and trust me, as saying I know, but to have it at that time of year, it's so uplifting that everybody enjoyed it. You could see the smiles on people's faces. I think that's what Ruth's talking about. Everybody was happy.
Yes.
And that just don't happen to widows and widowers in a large group like that.
And this is why, and so it's like, when Kevin says, like, we ran with it. We have no handbook, but we serve the best writer. And
That's
when
true.
I sit down with the Father, he gives these ideas. And Judy has been like, yes, I mean, she has her own ideas because she sits with the Father and she challenges me to go further. And I'm just going to throw some things out because she loves going on cruises. And she said, Micah, what if we did a widow's walk cruise?
Oh, wow.
And we could grow this thing where you see where there's a pocket of people over there and a pocket of people over here. And I'm talking a little bit ahead, but with what I'm going to say, but the beginning of the month, I share more from scripture or something that the Lord's putting on my heart. I started that this year, that the first Monday of every month I'm sharing something. And we had another sudden loss this week in our community.
We did.
And so last week I was at 2 funerals. 2 weeks later I'm in a visitation. Loss has been happening again. It's never going to stop.
No.
I'm kind of tired of it, but then I'm trying. This is the wrestle that happens of having to go to another event. But here at the Widow Walk, we are to be watchmen and women. The Widow Walk, this network, is us watching and looking out for each other. I'm going to be sharing this in May. I feel, again, this clarion call. If you think about what was the guy on the horse that would run from place to place back in the day, they would call him, like in the old times in the West, where they would have, he would ride on a horse and he would tell you news.
Like a town crier.
Yeah, but I thought they had a name.
I'm sure they did.
Like Tom Sawyer, was he like? That's another story. I'm really getting this stuff.
Okay, you're fine.
But basically, someone would come into town, and it is kind of the town crier. But I think there's like sound the alarm. You know, there was someone sounding the alarm, and when people pass suddenly, because I experienced sudden loss, and even though Kevin, it wasn't what he expected, was still kind of a sudden loss, even though there had been some illness there. They went in with positive and it came out negative.
Totally.
And it was unexpected. When I hear another widow that wasn't expecting it, this protective side of me wants to come awake. It comes back awake. And I really hope that here at the Widow Walk, it is going to be widows trusting widows. I'm casting this, y'all. As you listen to this, I am hoping that every widow who watches this feels the call to not just survive your own story, but to be able to look out at the ones around you in your own neighborhood who also need what you need. We have to get to a place that we're not just takers of others, but we're givers. Kevin has been a giver since I've known him. He needed to be a taker at times, and due to his upbringing, all the things, he doesn't ask, and he has needed more care than he ever was to ask. And not everyone could show up because he didn't ask. I did ask, and he showed up and helped me with branches and other things because I physically can't do it. So this is the interesting thing, y'all, of moments. And so now you've gotten to witness that even though everyone in that room has gone through loss, and some great loss, if not all of us great loss. And for her to say that she felt more joy and happiness whenever every one of us have been wearing a grief cloak
for a long time,
for longer than some of us needed to wear it, and the atmosphere in the room the grief did not outweigh the joy. It is miraculous. Only God can do that. Micah can't do that. Micah cannot do that. That it's only the hunch that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. and that when you get people together, that they're actually happy to be together, and that getting together and being able to have a speaker that spoke directly to them and to be wined and dined, I just it feels so necessary, and I have to continue to fight for it, to be honest, because I won't get into all that. But it is still not fully valued to do what we're doing. And I don't want any widow or widower, due to life's hardship, to not feel worthy
Right.
to sit at the table. And that is why we do not charge. Not why, but one of the reasons we do not want there to be an obstacle in the way that you can't financially afford it. We're not giving you chicken strips and fries.
Oh no. That was a super meal.
It was very good.
And that is very intentional, because Valentine's, as I say, is a very elevated date meal. Typically, if you're taking your Valentine out, you're kind of going to a nicer restaurant.
Sure.
Not Ruby Tuesday. No disrespect. So I want the widow and widower to feel that. That even though their spouse isn't there, they still got to experience.
And the ones that were there, I'm quite sure went away with exactly that thought.
Awesome. And the best dessert we've had yet. So that was a long intro, but we got into a few things. But Ruth, what can you now share about going back a little bit in your story? And then if you want Kevin to explain how you met, or him to share that part, but you kind of give a little bit of your backstory.
Sure. I am retired military. I was in the Air Force for 23 and a half years. I have an adult son now. I got divorced in 2017. So yeah,
I'm already getting chills.
Yeah, so it was September of 2017.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, so 2017 is a banner year, it seems like.
It absolutely is.
For the three of us.
Yes. We got rocked hard that year.
Yeah, we did. But yeah, after my divorce, it was amicable in a way, but it was freeing, which is really kind of a different experience than the widows and widowers have. And even at that age, I was 53 at the time, and I thought, what in the world do I do now?
Right.
But I had to keep moving forward.
And you were still working then?
And I've still worked now. I'm not retired yet. But my son was going through culinary school at the time, and I had to make sure that he was taken care of. The bills are being paid, and on a single income, how difficult that can be, for that. But it was something that I had to do, and I did. I had to rely on God to keep me going, because it's tiring. It's a struggle, making sure things work. So, it's sort of similar in a way,
right?
But it's different,
right?
Because you still have that person in your life, somewhere in the ether, somewhere, hanging over you in a way, sometimes, depending on your situation. But I thought I was lucky because my son was an adult at the time, where you're younger and you're going back and forth with children and doing all the things and stuff like that. So I felt like I could move forward in my life and do the things that I needed to do, and then on the way, finally get to do things that I wanted to do.
Right.
Which was really an amazing thing.
And so what are some of those things that you wanted to do?
Well, some of the things that I wanted to do was travel.
Okay.
Because I enjoy doing that, and I would do it by myself. I got used to going to restaurants by myself, and going to different museums and places and ball games and things like that by myself.
Can you speak to those that are widow? Like, what can you give a tip if you want to say, like, obviously you made a choice and you kept making that choice, but I have heard both sides. Some seem to do pretty well, and some really take it personal when they're sitting there and they can see others, or even if others invite them that are a couple and they don't like that either.
Oh, sure.
So if you both want to share a little bit about that experience,
Sure.
I just feel like that's very common, but maybe when you're saying, like, I just used to seeing widows kind of just keep going on, I think that they're feeling a lot of things, but there's nowhere to share those things. And
Yes.
then I think they internalize it to the point that they think they're the only ones who think that. And then you don't want to share that because no one's going to really understand what you're saying. So I'm kind of pulling some things out because I have heard it. But what really was the tipping point to say, I'm going to do this?
I think it was a couple of years after my divorce, and my sister um, invited me to spend more time with her and her group of friends.
Okay.
And yes, all of them were coupled, all married, and I was the only single person. And after a while, I really felt kind of out of place. But I said, I can't do this to myself. I can't feel out of place. But I did talk to one of the women in our friend group, and I said, do you mind that I'm single? I don't have somebody. She's like, girl, you can stay with us as long as you want.
Awesome.
We love you.
Awesome.
Stay with us. Be with us. And that energized me more and more to do things on my own and not have to worry about what other people thought. Or one of the things that I always tried to do is when I was by myself in a restaurant and I saw couples or families and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I'm hoping they're enjoying their meal. I hope they're enjoying their company because it looks like it's a great thing. And I try to stay positive about that, where I don't say, oh, I'm all by myself. I don't have anybody. Why can't I have what they have?
Right.
But I squashed that.
That's a
and
great
I said,
mindset.
I can't do that because I've always been on the positive side of life. But when you go through a change like that after 28 years of being married, it's really hard to move forward sometimes because you're so used to having that one person with you doing things or helping you, like with whatever it is that need help with. So that's when you become, you have to become resilient and be able to do things on your own and then ask for help. That's the biggest thing and the hardest thing for me.
It feels like a 4-letter word, but love is also a 4-letter word, so it is. Help feels icky to us.
It
Can you share
does.
any further with that, Kevin, about just that transition?
Well, I was kind of the opposite of Ruth in that I did internalize and I did not go out. I never left to go anywhere out. I would not go to a restaurant by myself. It's just not who I am. I did not go to a movie by myself. I did not do any of those things. And luckily, I had my adopted daughter, who is my great granddaughter.
And she was 7 at the time that this
She was
happened.
7 at the time that,
And you were
my
how
wife
old
passed.
at the time that happened?
Let's see. 54.
Okay. So to be a 54-year-old father plus
Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom. I mean, they made a movie about it. I mean, it's not the first time story, but another unique if you want to go to this like checkbox of where can I find check, it doesn't exist. I haven't
No,
heard.
there
He's
is
an
none.
anomaly. I mean,
There
that's
is
a
none.
Santa. I mean, it makes sense, but there's some things that he took on, not things, people, before he really knew what the future was going to hold because of
No
great
idea.
because of great love,
Right.
and so the determination to just make a better life is what he did for Kimmy, and so now she is 16.
She's 16 now, and actually I was 60 at the time.
Okay, 60.
I was trying to make it a little nicer
Oh,
for
okay,
me. But,
okay.
okay.
So
But,
that's
yeah.
more real. The reason I'm asking is not to push your age of any sort, but it's
Right.
the reality of a real storyline where a 60-year-old man had a 7-year-old child to raise alone. There is no support group for that. We still to this day do not really have support for the children because
No.
we are still growing this resource, and I believe we will have a space for them. And I'm thankful in an odd way that I have some close friends that have children. So in this, since this what you're speaking about as adults having to go out and reconcile being by yourself, that my kids don't feel out of place not having a father because they know so many others.
And it still is going to come up no matter what they do.
Right.
So.
Not having a father. So but I will say that one of my friends, younger child, who's 7, they have a little father-daughter dance. And she went with her
We did that.
She went with her grandfather, and the following year she said she didn't want to go with him because all the other dads are so much younger. That's how observant she is. So they asked another dad who has children there, and he stood in.
Good for him.
And I think it was in passing that a conversation was had, and then the wife talked to the husband and came back. And so it wasn't her asking, it was more talking about the situation that it came back.
Right.
And there's something very, it's emotional. I mean, it's emotional. I can feel emotional about that because you don't want your kids to feel left out of anything.
No, you
because
don't.
It was not of their doing.
Well, you're living your life for your kids at that point.
And you want them to, and when you know your kids are extroverted people and want to be at these parties and not feel like the odd duck out.
Yes.
And then there's friends and family that show up, and that isn't everyone's story. It's not everyone's story, and that's the part that can really be hard, is when we don't all have a lot of friends and family around, especially military people. You're moving a lot, and there is some resilience where you can make friends quickly, in a sense, but then you also feel a little bit like a nomad because you never really put roots down.
Yes, very true.
And so all of this, y'all, is the undercurrents.
Yes.
So then, with all of this that you're saying, Kevin, what made you persist?
What made me persist? Number one, I threw myself into helping others, into volunteer working. Did as much as I could for my church, for anybody that I knew. But what made me get back into this world was actually that very same daughter that I adopted. She comes to me one day and says, and a little over a year ago, and she says, "Dad, you need to do something." Well, by now she was 15 at the time. And I thought about that for several days. I said, when my immediate response was, "What do you mean I have to do something? I do something every day." She says, "Yes, you take care of me and you go work at the church." And that was basically my life. And so I came back to her a few days later, and I had thought about it, and in my mind I thought, she's only got another year and a half, and she will be graduating from high school and getting her life started and going. And so what have I set myself up for? And I said, when I went back to her, I said, you're right. I do need to start thinking of doing something.
Yeah.
So I went up on some apps.
Okay. Very fancy.
Christian Mingle,
Okay. Hey, we don't need. This is not weird. This is what people do now, right?
Well, and that's what I said. I don't go out.
Yep.
I don't go to restaurants. I don't go anywhere.
This in
really.
your profile?
Well, I put everything I could in my profile. I will tell you that, along with Santa.
Awesome.
I did have a picture of Santa in there, but
this is hilarious. This is getting really. I need to speak back to you after you finish this part.
Okay. So anyway, I go up on these sites, and I've thought about this many times after, and I've even spoken with several people after the fact, because I basically, after about 3 months, was totally disgusted with the entire process.
I've heard this also.
And I said, I don't know if I'd recommend this to anybody. And I told my daughter, I said, I'm done with this. I tried, but I'm done with this. And so I went up on this particular day to turn off all of those 3 applications and bring down my profiles and shut them down. I was done with it.
Okay.
When I went on the last one, I looked, and there was a note. Now, I had run into nothing but scammers and everything you can imagine on those sites. They're not all Christian.
I absolutely agree with that.
So anyway, I went up on this last one, was intending just to shut it down, and there was a note on there. And I said, well, let me at least look at the note. Sure. So I opened the note, and it was from this very nice lady. Wow. Named Ruth. And said, hey, I liked your profile and everything. And I had everything from military background to Santa Claus to all the work I do, voluntary and everything. And I thought, well, this is a very nice profile. There will be some interest here. Everything they all say they're looking for, they're not looking for.
So he put the truth, and they were fake about theirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I read this one, and I said, that sounds very interesting. So I went up and I opened her profile. And I looked at her profile. And she had all this stuff on there. She worked for William and Mary College. She works for the Virginia Marine Science area in there. She was a retired master sergeant from the Air Force. Well, I'm a retired master chief in the Navy. And I'm looking at all these things, and I'm thinking, and it started drawing a picture to me, because your mind goes there. Totally. When you're reading somebody's profile, you're starting to try to imagine who this person is.
This is getting good.
It gets better. You haven't heard nothing yet.
I'm really getting into it.
So after reading this profile, I thought to myself, I said, William and Mary, very prestigious college. Been doing this, been doing that. And the picture I'm getting is somebody that belonged with a lawyer or a professor.
I was kind of feeling that way myself when due to your description.
And so
Very
this is the picture I'm painting myself. So
disqualifying himself just from your profile.
Yeah, he said I
from
look
this
hoity-toity.
small town in Virginia,
That's right.
Franklin.
Hey, we're country.
You know, and I grew up in Festus, Missouri. Okay.
Doesn't sound good.
Very small town.
Yeah,
Right.
and I've been there now.
And she has been there now.
Mhm.
And they loved her, by the way. And so anyway, I actually went back up and wrote back to her and said, you know, I really think you're in a different class than I am. I'm a
Wow.
small town country boy.
Mhm.
And I wrote down every single problem that I could imagine.
What a
Yep.
self-sabotage here, folks.
I was definitely trying to self-sabotage and tell her that
Wow.
you need to move on. You know, you sound like a
Wow.
really nice lady and all
Mhm.
that.
Oh my gosh.
And was trying to chase her
Give
away.
her a reason to get out.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Absolutely.
And so she writes back to me and says, "So what?
Oh my god.
I was in the military too, and I understand everything you said."
Oh my god.
So then a little light bulb comes on and says, "Wow, this sounds interesting." So that's how we
Wow.
started writing back and forth.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need you to pause there. I would like to now hear. This is juicy. This is
Oh
like,
my goodness.
this
Mhm.
feels juicy. I mean, it's like this is better than I could have ever hoped.
Mhm.
That's why I had to pursue the conversation. So when you get this, okay. So first you
Yeah.
read it.
Mhm.
How long did it take you to respond to the profile?
Um, it took me a little bit of time to
Okay.
respond to it because distance was important to me because I thought, oh, Franklin is kind of far away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, considering where I am from. But I said, what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you won't know until you try.
Right.
And, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Right.
So, I wrote to him. I said, hey, Chief. And I did all, said all these things because, I was in the military and
Yeah.
in E9 in the Air Force as a chief. And, wrote my little blurb and he responded back and I was like, yeah, okay. What's your problem?
He thought these were all big alarms.
Yeah, he's also too. And I'm like, I was kind of taken aback by it.
Absolutely.
And I thought, okay, yeah, so what? And after that we started texting each other
Right.
through the app, and then we finally gave each other our phone numbers and started texting, and we haven't stopped. And I have the entire text string from the very beginning
How
until
romantic.
now. But I was having a similar feeling about the apps that
Right.
Kevin was having because
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
it was looking when you look at the pictures on the apps it doesn't matter what app it is,
Mm-hmm.
they all reminded me of the wanted posters you see in the post office.
Mm-hmm. Not good.
Not good. I mean, I even had to. I wrote to one guy. I said, "Look, you're a nice looking guy, but we don't want to see the inside of your nose," because he had the camera pointed up like this, and I'm like, it was the craziest thing.
Yeah.
But I think what really kind of helped me really talk to Kevin first off was Santa Claus, because Santa Claus to me is he
Happy.
fun, happy, brings joy, and it reminded me of a man that I knew growing up in high school, and he did Santa Claus for the students right before winter break every year. And he was a really good friend of mine, and we really were good friends. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that was a sign to me.
Right.
It was a sign to me.
And that could have gone either way, Kevin. That could go either way.
I understand.
So yeah.
I mean, do you see this? why do I have to get into this a little bit? Because I just need you to hear that it took a leap of faith.
It does.
Took getting uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It took opening up some apps that you may feel like, I can't believe I'm this person. Like, how did I get here? Or what other negative thinking thoughts? And then for you to write your profile or write your life. And maybe not all of it you're proud of that you're putting in there, but you feel like you need to be honest, because
Right.
when you're a widow and widower, you don't date to play, in my opinion.
No.
You take this very
No.
serious,
Yes.
and because you have experienced great loss, that it is not flippant.
And great love.
And great love, yes, the
Mhm.
great love of it,
So.
and it's not flippant to us. This is a serious matter, because you realize just how much life matters.
Right. Me and my wife were married for 40 years. So, yeah, it's not something you take lightly.
No, it's not a light topic, and for the younger generation that are kind of a little more fluid sometimes about things, I'll
Way
use
more.
that term. It's not how we are. I mean, it's not how we feel about it, because of the significance of their life and the significance that we feel without them in our lives. And so now that a year has passed and all the experience that you've gotten to have, what can you encourage others about stepping out in this? If they're now, I will say again, I don't always ask this question in these interviews with single widows. Are you open to it? I've had some say that there was a time that they were wrestling. Was that something they desired? And
been there, done that.
then they literally prayed and asked the Lord that if He was to be the one to fill that space, so that the desire was gone. And they have not felt, and they felt like the Lord did that. So let me just say, in that regard, I do believe there is some widows and widowers that have second, if not thirds, and maybe fourth chapters, depending on their storyline in their life. And then there's some that really did close in their life. And there is no right or wrong about this. That's just it. Some, we have heard of some that sometimes move on a little more quickly.
Right.
And there has been concern for some at times if that was the right choice, because there is this loneliness that is real. And you don't want to sit with that year after year after year. But I truly believe that if you wait on the Lord, He will bring the right person, not just some person. And you want to really step into that when you're ready.
Right.
And
you have to be careful about it.
Right.
Use your mind, because, when somebody's scamming, it always stands out very strongly. If you're using common sense, you can spot that in a heartbeat. And, I was seeing time after time after time, ladies that are telling me they're 60 to 65, 66, 67 years old, and yet all the photos are of a 30-year-old. And you see the same photos time and again. And I know Ruth went through the same thing on there, because we've discussed all of this, and it would be comical if it wasn't so serious.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Right.
So be careful.
And if that's something, again, now that we're sharing this here, when we have our monthly meetings, if you are someone who would like to know more about this, I believe there's always going to be somebody in the room that has experienced it.
Yeah.
And then you can glean and lean on each other and glean from the wisdom of the other. This is part of my website, the Widow Walk, where this term of leaning on each other and gleaning from the wisdom of the other. It is not a dating space. The Widow Walk is not.
No.
Our intent is not to help the lonely find community. That it is in a sense, but it isn't for matrimony. We are excited whenever matrimony finds itself.
Mhm.
But they didn't meet there, but
No.
they have been able to come together there and experience it together. And I believe and I hope that it'll be a representation for others
Mhm.
that
Sure.
there is second chapters, these resurrection stories, a piece of both of your lives had
Mhm.
kind of closed out or died
Mhm.
for almost a collective of 20 years.
Bottom
Between the two.
bottom line with
Mhm.
us, there was a lot of divine intervention.
That's absolutely. Thank you.
There are things that opened up on both of our ends that just didn't make sense unless there was divine intervention. And we've had so many things that we discuss. I'm
That
not
just
going there.
too-
You're not going to go there. Oh, you
I'm
have
not
to go there.
I have to go there.
You can go wherever you want
Okay.
to.
But
One of the things that he asked me was, "What is the one food that you do not want to eat?" You know, and I asked him that, and he said, "Stewed tomatoes." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I hate stewed tomatoes."
I mean,
How do we
of
both
all
get the same
things on earth, who else? I've never met anybody in my life that hated stewed tomatoes like I do.
Yeah.
And so, see, that may only be funny to them, but in a sense, that's an inside joke that they have.
It is.
But
It is.
It is.
again, do you feel the joy on it, y'all? This is the joy of when you're meeting somebody new, and instead of it feeling awkward, or I'm
Mhm.
not saying there's not something to that something natural can happen. And
Yes.
then all
Yes,
of a
it can.
sudden, as you share yourself and ask a question like, is there anything you don't like? Which I don't know if everybody even asked that question. I think they usually like ask, what do you like? What's your favorite restaurant? To find this out, which is a random fact,
Yeah.
to be so united. And something I've said in having some of these conversations, that when I hear there's similarities, I'm like, sometimes your sameness is your oneness.
That's true. And the funny thing is, and we've discussed this also, is that me and my wife were like opposites, and opposites attract. And that's an old saying, and it stands very true. But in this case, it's totally different than that. We're so much alike in everything.
I love that.
That it's amazing. And
there's unity in that. There's
there
synergy
is.
in that. There's like he's saying, and Howie Sochek also said divine connection. And so I'm telling you, y'all, Jesus is just as much into the business of helping us cross over into eternity as he is of crossing into matrimony. Okay? He's in it. He is
He
the
is.
one. When Ben and I got married, we did this cord where there was 2 white ropes and a red rope, and then we braided it because there's a scripture about the 3-ring, the 3-stranded cord can't be broken. And when you have the 2, and then the red is the Lord in the middle, it's that tight, back to that knot. That when it's just 2 ropes, that can be a tug of war, okay? Or that's 1 rope actually. But when you have the 3, it's really made to not be broken. And when we take our vows seriously and people pass, or a season in a marriage you feel like is coming to an impasse, and you kind of have to settle within yourself that if you're moving forward, yours was a choice, his was not as much, and that, there is a time where you have to say, am I going to be okay if this is it? Like, there may not be another chapter.
Right.
I've heard it so many times that you kind of almost like come to that realization and settle it, and then something is on the back end of it.
I was at that point in acceptance with it, and I was happy with my life. And we've discussed this as well, that she was perfectly happy in her life. If nothing else ever came of it, if nobody else ever walked in that door, we were both happy with our lives.
Now I'm curious, how long were you on the sites when he came on?
I'd been on probably 5 months. And I will say one advice I do have about websites is that they can be addictive in a way, because you always want to see what's next. You always want to see what's next. and it can take up a lot of your
Oh,
time,
Yes.
a lot of time,
Yes.
and a lot of money. So doing your research on these websites, about these websites, is very, very important.
Right.
Because
Right.
also you have to have a plan. You know, it's what you want to find out, in this site, and stay true to yourself.
That's good.
Because that's really, really important. Do it because for me, it was, I just want to see what's out there and see what happens.
But you see the timing of this.
And
Kimmy
yes.
had this conversation.
Yeah.
He's mulling over about this. She didn't say I've been on it for 2 years, or I was on and off. The timing of this is so.
It had to be perfect.
To divine, okay? The divine. Some people use that term. I feel like it still means the Holy Spirit when I'm talking about that. But when things align beyond your control, this is bigger than either one of them could have ever put together.
Very true.
And there's something I like to say magical about that.
There is.
Because you feel the Lord's kindness. I hope you can say that. And
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That you feel Him shining on something. And that, yes, do I feel like, oh my gosh, do you feel like you have more purpose now? I want you to hear that people that are widows and widowers have just as much purpose as ones that step back into matrimony or whatever. But I will say, I do think there is a revitalizing something, like something kind of really bumps. Does it? Can you articulate that better than what I'm trying to do?
Well, I think number one, you have to give it over to the Lord.
Thank you.
You have to give it over to the Lord, number one, or I'd have never done any of this. Trust me. But we also had the fact that even my older daughter asked me after we had met and after we had started dating, she came to me one day and says, "Dad, do you think Mom had something to do with this?"
Whoa. Wow.
I mean, so many odd things were happening that, you have to give it up.
Wow.
You have to give it up.
Wow.
So
I love that, Kevin. I mean, it almost just gives you chills. And then I hope you feel that just the presence on it. I mean, it's like, why you?
Well, she felt kind of the same way. The gentleman she was talking about earlier that played Santa Claus that she knew in high school and stuff. Well, after her bad divorce, mildly, but she actually had gotten back in touch with this man that she went to high school with.
Yes.
And they were having a good relationship. And then he passed away.
Yeah. We had been dating for 18 months.
Right.
And
wow.
So she felt the same way that my daughter told me that, do you think she had something that my wife had something to do with it? Well, she felt the same way about this guy having something to do with it.
You know what we call these match made in heaven. We're titling that this episode. Match made in heaven.
There we go.
We're titling it. It's here. That tidbit needed to have come out. I mean, again, like, what are the odds? And that, again, you could have said, enough's enough.
Yeah.
You opened yourself up, and now he's gone. And now, how long after that?
Well, he passed away. It'll be 5 years on the 10th of May, which happens to be Mother's Day this year.
Yes, it is.
So, but I had known this man for 40 years.
Wow.
And he was a really good man. He was also in the Air Force. We had known each other since high school. We were on the bowling team together.
Wow.
And stuff. So,
So you just kind of rolled all of them into one and met Kevin, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But
so many oddities. This is what I told you earlier about there is so much strangeness in here.
Wow.
It has to be divine intervention.
It has to be, yeah.
There's no way.
It's comical. I hope you feel this, y'all. And these things make life worth living. These kind of conversations really feel like it's
Mhm.
there's still always going to be things that happen.
Mhm.
And,
Yes.
you
Mhm.
know, so it doesn't mean that if they ride off into the sunset, that no hard moments aren't going to be a part of their story.
Mhm.
But the
Right.
beautiful thing about the two is that you get to do it together.
That's
Mhm.
it.
Together.
That's it.
Mhm.
And it's better together. We're
Mhm.
better
Sure it
together,
is.
y'all.
Yeah.
We're better together.
Yes.
Any final thoughts before we close this out? I hope y'all got. I wish I could have said this in the beginning. Get your popcorn. Get your tea. Sit back. This is going to be an exciting
Excuse me.
story here today. An exciting ride
Mhm.
through life, love, and the in betweens.
Made for
Mhm.
TV.
I mean, it is. I mean, that's why I come back for the next episode. I mean. So if you want to hear more from them, comment. We can bring these people back because there's so much more to
Mhm.
explore in the land of the living. Because
Mhm.
you're talking about hearts, you're talking
Mhm.
about past stories,
Yeah.
you're
Mhm.
talking about lives.
Mhm.
And we're not one dimensional. We're
Mhm.
not.
No.
But this match
No.
made in heaven type of thing, I believe it's real. I believe it's real. I'll say that again. I
Mhm.
believe it's real because I think sometimes and say in this regard that this gentleman, I'm not going to say he made an arrangement with the Lord. I'm not saying that exactly, but
Mhm.
somehow I feel like certain things trip. And this may not have, this wouldn't have been if that
No.
would have been.
No.
Mhm.
And there's an oddity, let me say it like this, that when you feel like a life has to be lost for a love to be found, for a life to be found, that is a weird,
It
Mhm.
is
it's
very
an odd,
weird.
I don't know, weird's not the right thing, but it's not words we talk about to say like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I found the love of my life because someone died.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
sounds
Mhm.
weird.
It-
That sounds
right.
Mhm.
That's not a good way to put
no.
it.
No.
But when eternity is involved,
Mhm.
there has to be some exchanges and arrangements that happen. And I also believe that certain events, let's not call it death, certain events have to happen for the next domino or
Next
the next
chapter to
chapter,
open.
the door, all
Mhm.
these pivots in our storyline. Ruth may have thought she was going over here, but her listening to the promptings within herself went in a direction which she would probably say wasn't her.
Mhm.
He went in a direction that wasn't him,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
something came from it that feels bigger than them, bigger than them. So
Mhm.
stay
It
tuned,
does.
y'all. Stay tuned for more goodness here. I had to wear this love sweatshirt because I was like, I doubt they're gonna wear a sweatshirt that says it. But Match Made in Heaven is, I mean, it's a sitcom. I mean, I need like, stay tuned for next week's Match Made in Heaven episode. And so if you need more from them on dating advice and things like that, if you're curious about how to go about this, we want to know because
Mhm.
these are topics, no
Mhm.
topic is off topic here at the
Mhm.
Widow Walk because I'm curious about every facet of the widow and widower story.
Mhm.
Thank you, Kevin, for serving this community. Thank you, Ruth and Kevin, for serving our country and keeping us safe. And all the turmoil that there has been, that you're still alive to tell the story.
Mhm.
There's purpose to both of your stories. Please share this episode. Comment and below. We're still not getting a lot of comments. This is why I say this, but we would love. I would love. We at the Widow Walk would love to hear what part of their story resonated with you, what felt true to your own story, maybe even a thought that you've been thinking but really didn't want to, get your feet wet in that.
Mhm.
We want to help you step into your future because you have a new chapter. And Kevin, 2 years ago, may not have been saying, I know I have a new chapter. And
No, I
he
would not
had to
have.
be vulnerable. He had to be vulnerable to do
Mhm.
this. And it
Mhm.
took his daughter challenging him in this to really kind of shake him up a little bit and say, hey, you still got something to give.
Mhm.
And for Ruth to say, I just want to see what's out there because I think we kind of live in a world that feels like there's not much out there.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then sometimes you're blown away because you feel like this is a needle in a haystack. There's no possible
Right.
way I can find this man.
Mm-mm.
So what the heck? You know, it's just a whim. You're just throwing it out there.
Mhm.
This fleece, if you want to say, and the Lord brought it back. And you know, if you remember Gideon, he's like, hey, I'm gonna give you an idea. Can you make? I know you want me to do something, but I don't really know if it's you. Let's see if you can make this little blanket wet, or can you make it not wet? This is in the Bible, y'all.
Mhm.
You can Google the story about the mat. And he challenged the Lord multiple times, even though he heard.
Mhm.
He said, I just need a little more assurance.
Mhm.
I need more assurance. And I'm just telling you that when couples meet and there's these oddities and these synchronicities, I want to believe that that's another form of assurance. It builds confidence to
Sure.
continue to
Mhm.
open up these chambers of the heart, to try again, to let your heart beat again. That's a lyric.
Mhm.
To allow it to breathe. Grief is very suffocating of a emotion and
Of life.
of life.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
sucks the life out of you
Mhm.
in a slow way, and for you to muster up enough energy to keep going is exhausting, let
Mhm.
alone to try to open yourself back up to love and potential loss. Again, and that's not what we're speaking, but unfortunately, as I say, it's not if, it's when, y'all.
Mhm.
That's it.
And so, what you're choosing is to choose life again and to care for each other in whichever way you need again.
Mhm.
And the Lord doesn't hand us a playbook, play by play of the next 10 years of Kevin and Ruth's life. You really don't get that.
Mhm.
And I think that's His mercy
Mhm.
to let us
Sure it
not know
is.
about it.
Sure it is.
So if you need a little bit of mercy, open the book, the good book, because there is so many love stories in there.
Mhm.
And if you want to hear about them, the Song of Solomon and all sorts of Old Testament stories, there's beautiful love stories in there.
Mhm.
And, you know, I wasn't going to add this in, but I'm going to end it this way because I have to, because there's a whole book in the Bible called Ruth that is
Yeah.
that is a widow's story, and I identify with it a lot of times.
Mhm.
And you know, in that story, there is the kinsman redeemer, and his
Mhm.
name's Boaz. So
Mhm.
Kevin isn't Boaz, but in this moment here, I'm saying he is Boaz because
Mhm.
for those believers out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about in this kinsman redeemer moment, and that's really what Jesus represents as well. There was a gentleman who saw someone, and he took interest, and she responded. And what happened? Actually, Jesus is in the lineage of these people from it all, and it
Mhm.
was the second chapter that produced that lineage, not the first.
Mhm.
And so second chapters have
Mhm.
some grace and goodness on them.
Mhm.
Sure they
And
do.
so we believe in love here at the Widow Walk. We believe in love for you here at the Widow Walk.
Mhm.
We believe that you need to find it first from the Father, and that once
Yes.
He fills you up with love,
Mhm.
and you're not coming from an empty place, but a place of worth, and you have that love to give back. You're not. I just want to make that clear that I truly believe that the Lord is here to stand in as your husband in a widow and widower story. As long as you continue to rely on Him for strength and support, He will provide and care and protect you just like
Mhm.
a husband and wife will do. I've experienced it. But there is a higher measure, and that is when you actually get human form of these things. And it's a worth pursuing just as much as it's worth pursuing Him. And the more you pursue Him, the more you learn about yourself. And the more you learn about yourself and the words that He speaks over you, that you're a daughter of the King, that you're worthy, that you're basically covered over the shadow of His wings. I like one of the Bible says, wrap around presence. That His wrap around presence. That's what a hug is. And we miss that as single
Sure.
people. We miss the
Of course we
embrace
do. Yes.
of the wraparound presence. So I am letting you know that yes, it's a different form when you feel the embrace of the Father.
Mhm.
But to know that they could come into the walk of love, and she to articulate that she felt the love of the Father there, just continues to remind me how much the Father loves the widow and widower. He loves us all, but he has a sweet spot for the widow and widower.
He
I'm
does.
telling you, he has a sweet spot for us, and we want to make a sweet, safe spot for you. So we do have our meetings every fourth Saturday. Check out our website. Check out our Facebook page. Please comment below, even if it's just heart emoji or some little laughs or your favorite line. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on our Facebook page. You can comment on our Instagram. We are on all these different handles. And I think we just waved bye. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.